Hi everyone, our time in Bahrain has come to an end. Just a quick disclaimer before I get into this video. What I have to say is obviously based on my own personal experiences, and I am not speaking on behalf of all expats. So here's how I see Bahrain after 5 years of expat living. Aside from the Middle Eastern cuisine, Bahrain has a nice array of food. You can find Italian, French, Mexican, even Japanese food. I personally love M by Mirai. Expats from all over the world move here, so you will have the opportunity to make an eclectic group of friends. My advice is to get out there and join a social club like the British Club, or the Dilmun Club, or just any meetup group. It's easy to get isolated out here, so definitely put yourself out there. You are very close to some amazing places like Oman, the UAE, Jordan, Georgia, Armenia, the Maldives, and the list goes on. Violent crime is extremely low. Essentially, this is a very safe country for children. Public life is fairly conservative and family-oriented. Winters are wonderful, and it's a great time of year to get outside and get active. If you hate the cold, then you will love Bahrain. Cleaning service is cheap, so most people out here have maids or a weekly cleaning crew. Additionally, you can pretty much get anything you want delivered to your house. Groceries, flowers, items from the pharmacy, etc. One popular app many people use is called Talabat. If you like water sports, there's plenty of that. Lastly, if you have the funds and means to do so, there are several 5-star hotels with great restaurants and private beaches if you want to do a day pass, like the Ritz-Carlton, Four Seasons, and Sofitel, to name a few. Many expats complain that there is nothing to do, especially during the unbearable summer months. There is little nature here compared to other countries, and although Bahrain is an island, many of the public beaches are trashed. The summers are so bad, most people won't even head to the beach until 4 p.m. rolls around. In fact, during the summer, most people shop or hang out in the malls since there's nothing to do. I've also noticed that a lot of people eat out of boredom, which is not a good thing, so don't fall into this trap. Keep in mind that it can be uncomfortably hot as early as mid-April and as late as mid-October, so definitely get outside as much as possible during the winter months. Generally speaking, Bahrain is very expensive. However, everything varies because it really depends upon how comfortable of a lifestyle you want to live. For example, rent can be 500 BD a month or it can be 1200 BD a month. Obviously, if you want a decent 3-bedroom villa or apartment in a good area, then you are going to pay a lot more for it. Same goes for restaurants. You can get a cup of tea for 400 fils or you can get a cup of tea for 4 BD. It just depends which restaurant you go to. I will say that electricity is extremely expensive during the summer months. Schooling is also insanely expensive for expats. For example, 1 year of preschool cost us 3,000 BD. Don't forget that inflation is pretty much making everything increase in price, including groceries. Unless you work with Bahrainis or go to school with them, you won't have many close Bahraini friends. I did work with a couple Bahrainis, and my son did have Bahraini friends at school, but all of our super close friends were expats, so just something to keep in mind when you move here. I can't tell you how many horrific accidents we have witnessed while living here. One day while my mother was driving my son to school, she observed a dead body on the side of the road. Apparently he was a motorcyclist that had just been killed. There have also been countless incidents where bicyclists or people crossing the street have been killed, so be very careful when you are driving or crossing the road. I'm going to be very careful how I word this. Essentially, certain aspects of people's lives are a lot more controlled. During the special flu, shall we call it, the government locked out people that did not get the you-know-what. Aside from the special flu, the health authorities are very strict when it comes to regular childhood pokes. For example, if you give birth here and you want to delay the hepatitis B poke for your child for any reason, this will trigger the authorities to start calling you non-stop until you comply. We were threatened with prosecution for attempting to delay several childhood pokes for our son. We had a valid medical reason to do so, but they claimed our case was not convincing enough and they would not leave us alone. So just be aware that this is how the authorities operate out here. Lots of people, including expats, hire nannies to take care of their kids. The problem that I see is that the nannies are not correcting the children when they act badly, and the parents are not disciplining the kids. Some parents don't even spend time with their children and constantly leave their kids with a nanny. So definitely avoid falling into this trap if you choose to hire extra help. There is also a huge culture of bullying out here in the schools. It's just another reason to make sure that you stay involved in your child's life and be extra careful when choosing a school, because some schools are harder on bullies than others. Lastly, there are barely any animal rights here. Innocent animals have been brutalized, and some people here actually find sick ways to justify this because they think animal lives don't matter. The zoo is absolutely atrocious. Do not visit it unless you want to see suffering animals. And if you do want to get a pet here, please consider adopting an animal from one of the shelters, because the shelters are overflowing with unwanted animals. As far as clothing and modesty, it's best to cover everything from your shoulders down to at least your knees if you want to play it safe. I have seen mall security approach women in crop tops and shorts and tell them to leave the mall, but the rules aren't always enforced, so sometimes you will see people walking around wearing less. Speaking of authority figures, you will encounter some people that try to enforce rules that don't exist. I'll give you a very specific example. So Ramadan is a special month in which Muslims fast from sunrise to sunset. In Bahrain, all adults, regardless of religion, are not allowed to publicly consume water or food until sunset. However, it's perfectly okay to feed young children in public. So during Ramadan, I sat down in the mall to feed my hungry 3-year-old. When I was feeding my son, the security guard told me to leave the mall because, according to him, feeding my 3-year-old in public was not allowed. I stood my ground because I knew the guard was wrong, and I knew he was targeting us, probably because we were foreigners. Eventually, the guard left us alone, so things like that can definitely get on your nerves. It's just another thing to be aware of here. Well, that's all I have to say. Hope this video helps.